How did your worst date go? What was the experience like? A girl invited me to her house for an ugly sweater Christmas party. This was before Tinder, so this was through OkCupid. I went. I knocked on the door and she opens it with her friend. She laughs with her friend and goes, "Haha, no way. Sorry, you're not invited anymore." And they shut the door. I've never used an online dating service of any kind ever again. Edit, it's been over a decade and I still think about it a lot. There's several that come to mind. Went on one where she was texting with her ex the whole time. I paid. No second date. Went on a date with another chick who was more interested in Facebook than me. If they reach for their phone more than twice without good cause, I'm gone. I will no longer inconvenience myself. Met a girl at a club. Invited her out for dinner for next week and then go to the club and see what happens. At the date, she was late. I started talking with the waiter, who also went to the same club. About 30 minutes late, she arrives, full of apologies. The date went okay, but she was nervous. I blamed it on a first date. Until the police arrived. Apparently, she was shoplifting at a shop next door and the camera images showed where she went. Fortunately, the waiter could help me for not getting arrested. We met online and spent a few days texting. Conversation went well, so we decided to get drinks and guac at a local spot that week. Conversation flows well IRL too, similar careers, decent overlap in interests, and a complementary sense of humor. So date ends and she invites me back to her place. I go and we wind up on the couch to watch a movie. Well, she almost instantly passed out and I don't know what to do. Luckily it was part way through the movie, so I let her sleep a bit and finished watching the movie. Well, the movie ends and I figured that the shift and noise might wake her up a bit. Nope, she's out like a light. So I figure it's time to head home and think that maybe the next date will go better. I wake her up and she's in complete shock, like she forgot I was there at all. I tried to make a joke about her falling asleep, something to let her know I wasn't annoyed by it and thought it was funny, but that fell painfully flat. Her entire mood, demeanor from earlier did a 180 and she acted as if she had just had a worse date and couldn't get rid of me fast enough. I texted her for another day or two because I genuinely didn't understand when the switch flipped and had enjoyed our happy hour together. By the second day I picked up on her tone and left well enough alone. To this day I have no idea what happened for her to change so drastically, but it is what it is. Not the worst date ever, but definitely one of the stranger ones. We were at a Mexican restaurant. Half an hour or so and she invited her roommate to the meal. She showed up, and the two of them talked non-stop to just each other, then asked me to pick up the check for the three of us. Took her to the driving range to teach her how to drive a golf ball. While showing her how to swing, hit her in the head on the backswing, not full force. Cut her head open, bleeding all over the place. Took her to the ER to get stitches. Went out to a bar afterwards. She is now my wife of 15 plus years. It was a bad date, but memorable. Took a girl on a hike once, tried to show off and screwed up my ankle, kept trying to walk it off and tough it out, but it did not go great. Actually terrible, very sad and terrible. Picture parking the truck, and attempting to walk to a restaurant, getting halfway there and needing to turn back, having intense difficulty getting back to the truck, trying to change shoes in hopes that'll help. It didn't ''t. She later drives me to the hospital. Doctor tells me not that bad. If you were a MLB pitcher you'd be sent right back to he mound. Like damn Dr. Cockblock. Played it off by saying, hey, if you're offering me that kind of salary I'll do a cartwheel right now. Later got to show off my natural talent with crutches. We pass out in the parking lot as this is now 3 in the morning and we're beat. Wake up and drive back to her place. We did have sex though. In the truck because I'm pretty sure I can't make it inside her house. We managed to stay together for 2.5 years after that. Worst part though, is that I was a house painter at the time. Imagine showing up to work with crutches, just to have to climb and stand on a ladders for 8 to 14 hours a day, long recovery time. Sex was worth it though. 10 tenths would be show offy a hole and twist ankle running through hiking trails again. I drove 40 minutes to meet her at basically a China buffet. She was 15 to 20 minutes late. She walks in and I stand up from the table as you do to greet someone at meals. She immediately flops into the booth and starts talking about her day and stuff. Awesome, no awkwardness. Except she is incredibly loud. Not like she's yelling, but she has just a loud carrying voice and everyone seems to notice as well. After we ordered, she immediately starts talking about her at work's MLM. Tuned the rest of the day out and ate my body weight in sushi. Never talked to her again, and I could not tell you her name for the life of me. Thanks Tinder. My buddy met his wife on OkCupid. Said it was the second date he went on from the site. First date ended when she started saying mildly racist things. I mean, they were both white and in the second whitest state in the country, but that doesn't excuse racism. Anyways, just goes to show that internet dating works by setting the bar so low that you'll settle for the first halfway decent person you meet. This didn't happen during the date, but after our one, and only, date. This happened almost 15 years ago. I was working abroad at the time, and I met an incredibly aesthetically pleasing lady at a coffee shop and absolutely had to chat her up. We exchanged numbers and we went out for drinks later that week. While the date went off alright, I felt like something wasn't quite right, so I told her at the end of the night that I had a great time, but I didn't think we had much in common. She seemed okay with this fact, thanked me for my honesty, and we parted ways with a hug. A couple days later, I get a text as I'm leaving the office from her asking if I can meet up because she needed to talk to someone. I'm not going to be jerk and say no, especially since she sounded desperate, so I told her to meet me at the coffee shop where we first met. She showed up with a suitcase, looking incredibly disheveled and obviously having recently cried. We sat down to start talking, and she started telling me how she was in a bad place. Got involved with a lot of hard drugs, was turning tricks on the street to fund said drugs, and just got kicked out by her mom. While I'm trying to absorb the delusion and not choke on my coffee, she asked if she could stay with me. Nope. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the idea since we didn't know each other and asked if she had anyone else to turn to, which led to more crying. We were starting to cause a scene, so I then offered to get a room for her at one of the local hotels, using my travel points, but she didn't have to know, so that she could at least have a place for the night while she sorted things out. She accepted on the condition that I at least stay a while with her for comfort. We check in, head to the room, and sit down to start talking some more. I then realize that it's relatively late and I have to get up early for work, so I make these facts known. She breaks down some more, which leaves me conflicted to the point that I reluctantly stay and I tell myself that I have a pretty good excuse for my boss in the morning. A few more hours later, I really need to get to sleep, so I tell her that I'm just going to sleep in the one bed so I can get some rest before my day starts and she can have the other bed to herself. She goes to start getting ready for bed and I fall fast asleep. I wake up roughly 30 minutes later, probably around 4 am-ish, incredibly groggy, but something is definitely not right. I'm still trying to focus because I slept in my contacts, so my eyes are taking a minute to adjust. There's an arm draped around me. Why do I feel wet and sticky? Then I notice all the red. She cut herself. Aunt crawled into bed with me. Instant panic mode. It took everything I had to swallow my heart a couple times as it desperately attempted to escape. I called down to the front desk asking where the nearest hospital was, no time to explain, I'll pay for the room, etc. I don't remember carrying her out to the car, wrapped in the drenched bedsheets, nor do I remember the drive to the hospital. I only remember carrying her through the front door and yelling for help. The staff rushed over and took her away, and I was immediately sat with 2 officers and a nurse, doctor, who started asking me a lot of questions. I answered as honestly as I could, but noticed my peripheral was starting to turn black. Then fainted. I eventually came to, and so did the girl. Thankfully, she corroborated my side of the story and that there was no foul play. I don't want to know what would have happened otherwise, considering I was a foreign national on a work visa. I've avoided talking to girls in coffee shops since. Edit 1, emphasis on the top part. Edit 2, I later found out she was a cutter and had cuts up and down her thighs, as well as her arms. She had taken some sleeping pills and started cutting herself, then the pills took effect and she just laid down next to me. She didn't slit her wrists, but that's not something I was looking for at the time. While desperately trying to figure out if she was breathing, she was, of course. Given her comatose state from the pills, I thought the worst when I couldn't get her conscious.